Saturday morning. This is the Christmas outlook. And we're going to do things a little different, which might have some implication on how we do videos in the future. But right now we're going to start off with some observations that have been made this morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. This gives us a picture of the current state of the atmosphere. And pretty much we're going to look at how things will evolve. So first, we're looking at this map. This map is the tip top of the weather producing atmosphere, more or less, about 250 millibars up. So we're looking at pretty much the jet stream here. And you can see some maximum flow across the mid-Atlantic into the Carolinas at the tip top of the atmosphere. This is at the base of this trough that is now exiting the United States. We have another little piece of enhanced flow at the top coming into the upper Midwest. If we go down to the mid-levels, you see that enhanced flow across the mid-Atlantic and Carolinas is still there at 500 millibars, which is about halfway up. And these lines, these darker lines on both of these maps, or all of these maps, will be the height, the geopotential height, which is the distance between the mean sea level and the pressure of 500 millibars, which is typically the middle of the atmosphere. And again, this trough has a base with enhanced flow around it. And back over Missouri or southern Iowa, there's a little piece of energy. It's very, very subtle, but it's there. Whenever you have differences in horizontal wind speeds, you're going to have some spin. So it's like holding a pencil in your hands and moving one hand faster than the other. The pencil's going to spin, and that's exactly what's happening over here. It's a little piece of energy here that you can see on 500 millibar level. If we go down just a tish more, this is about 3 kilometers up in the atmosphere. This is the 700 millibar, and still we have some enhanced flow across the Appalachians and over towards the getting into the upper plains of the United States. And you can see again a low pressure center over the off the coast of New England, and getting about 1.5 kilometers up. This is important because it tells us the temperature. So this first blue line here is the freezing, is the 0 degrees Celsius line. Red is warmer, blue is colder. And you can see that 0 degrees Celsius line is down towards the just south of Columbia, South Carolina, at 7 a.m. this morning. And you can see a high pressure building with some very warm temperatures. I say very warm, 4 degrees Celsius over the Intermountain West. Now the next map I'm going to show you allows us to see where the potential is of what we would call synoptic scale lift. And this actually, what this actually tells us is where the 500 millibar heights are falling. So right ahead of this trough is where heights are falling, and typically height falls indicate some lift, and where you have lift and moisture, you have clouds and rain. So we're going to see the satellite images here in a moment, and you will see clouds and rain. Where you have height rises is typically where you have sinking motion, and you can see the sinking motion is pretty much locked in over the Carolinas, and we have some slight height falls across the lower Mississippi Valley into the southern plains. Now, just because you have height falls doesn't necessarily mean you have clouds, but there is a potential for synoptic scale lift. So how are these maps going to change over time? And we're specifically looking at the Christmas forecast. So here is the European model. initialized last night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And you'll note that there are some very big differences in this particular map that shows what the weather should have been like at 7 a.m. versus what we actually observed. We did not observe such enhanced flow across the mid-Mississippi Valley. It was pretty much over the southern parts of the mid-Atlantic and into the Carolinas. So this might give you some hesitancy to use the Euro model, which is well-deserved hesitancy because this is a huge difference from the observed flow across this area. So the model depicts 110 knots across this area, but we actually observed about 50 knots, 60 knots over that area. So this is a very big difference. But the evolution of the weather pattern, despite the inconsistencies in the initialization of this model, doesn't seem to have too big of an effect, which is pretty cool. So as we push this forward, the enhanced flow goes off the coast of the southeast, and we are looking at how the weather will start to develop, specifically in regards to our Christmas vacation. So here we're getting into Sunday afternoon. We have a little bit of energy approaching the southern Appalachian Mountains, and pushing this a little forward. We're getting into Monday, the afternoon of Monday, December 23rd. You have a upper or a mid-level low pressure center that's depicted here as being cut off, but some enhanced flow across northern or central South Dakota into northern Nebraska. So that might produce some rain. We'll look at that map here in a little bit. This is 7 a.m. Eastern Time on Christmas Eve. And when we push this forward, you'll notice that this little piece of energy, getting into Christmas morning, late Christmas Eve evening, early Christmas morning, this little piece of energy will start to dive south and become more stronger as we get into the day on Christmas Day. Otherwise, you have some pretty zonal flow across the southeastern United States out ahead of this system, especially across the Carolinas, and enhanced flow across the Virginias. But this little system here will begin to spark some showers and perhaps some thunderstorms across the southern parts of the Mississippi River Valley into the Mid-South region through the day on Christmas. And this model depicts a closed-off low developing over central Arkansas by December 26th. And then that scoots off to the east and becomes weaker. So at the surface, what's going on? This will evolve like this. We have some low pressure with some precipitation across the majority of the Great Lakes region. That again heads to the south and slams up against the Appalachian Mountains, with maybe perhaps some precipitation surviving across the Charlotte metro region again later on this evening. But that is of no concern because this is a Christmas video. This high pressure continues to be cool, very, very cold for this time of year, especially across the southeastern United States. That remains in control as we go through Monday evening into the morning of December 24th, Christmas Eve. We have some precipitation across the Intermountain West and the Pacific Northwest. And remember, we have this little piece of energy right in through here that's giving way some precipitation across Wyoming and northern or northwestern Colorado. That dives south and induces what we call cyclone genesis, which is a low pressure center develops. across the Red River Valley between Oklahoma and Texas, and that sparks off some showers and thunderstorms across that area. Now, what's interesting is the 6Z Euro model came out and is a full day ahead. So this map is 7 a.m. December 25th, Christmas, while the 6Z has this same type of solution, but on Christmas Eve. Nonetheless, despite the new model data coming in a full day earlier with the evolution, some precipitation is expected to fall somewhere in the mid-Mississippi Valley southward through the Mid-South and southern parts of the Mississippi River Valley through the day on Christmas and into the evening of Christmas. So expect some wet travel conditions if you have anywhere to go to see family and friends on Christmas Day. Even if it's before, there's some threat of some precipitation across the Oklahoma and Texas region. And we'll look at the trend in the model momentarily. In the meantime, the evolution is that this broad area of precipitation crosses the southern Mississippi River Valley through the day on December 26th. So if you have return traveling home across the deep south, expect a wet go of it. And again, that high pressure center over the Carolinas is weakening, but it's not giving up too easily. So that being said, across the Carolinas on Christmas Day, it's expected to be mostly dry, with the exception of the Savannah area and points south of Columbia, mainly towards Hilton Head Island and Savannah and Charleston. Those areas could see some very light precipitation through the day on Christmas. As promised, this is the trend of the Euro model, thanks to TropicalTidBits.com. The Euro model, so one thing that you should note is when you go in between sources. So we just looked at the College of DuPage, and so thanks to them for their efforts. When you go in between sources, the precipitation shadings also change. So while we were looking at College of DuPage graphics, those Euro shadings for the precipitation is 3-hour precipitation. This is instantaneous, and this is in millimeters rather than inches. So the shadings will look different, but nonetheless, it shows us where instantaneously some precipitation is across regions. So this initialized yesterday morning, and this was this is valid 7 a.m. Eastern Time, December 25th on Christmas morning. And it's yesterday morning's run had a large area of precipitation extending from pretty much the Gulf Coast up through the mid-Mississippi River Valley, through parts of Illinois, Missouri, the majority of the Mid-South. And as we go to the next one, this is yesterday afternoon's run. Again, same type of situation. And then we had last night's run, which looks less widespread, but notice the little low pressure center is now over southeastern Oklahoma. And then we get to the newest run, which looks more like the previous runs from yesterday. So these trends are also important because it gives us an idea of how the model handles the new data. So if the new data points to a similar solution, that also gives us more confidence within that particular model that whatever it's forecasting is valid. And with the exception of the 0Z run last night, everything looks pretty consistent across the last 4 runs of the Euro model. And when you have models, different models say the same thing, different runs of the same model also say the same thing, you can pretty much bet your money that, some precipitation will fall across the Mid-South and the southern Mississippi region at least at this particular time, 7 a.m. Eastern time on Christmas morning. So that'll do it for this Christmas Day outlook. Even though there are some model differences and model run-to-run differences, even slight, expect some precipitation on Christmas Day somewhere along the Red River and the Mississippi valleys, extending into the mid-Mississippi valleys, and maybe perhaps some precipitation across the southeastern coast, northeast Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina through the day on Christmas Day. That precipitation across the southeast is expected to be fairly light and more of a nuisance than anything, but the precipitation across the southern Mississippi River Valley into the southern plains and Mid-South is going to be heavier, more of a nuisance, if you will. But yeah, that about does it for this particular video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the Monday's video.